thank you for joining us. I'm going to make some quick intros. First of all, David Wanzer. David, I met you back when you had opened up a small office in Deep Deuce, and it's amazing the things that you've gotten into.
Thank you.
And you're perhaps best known for your early work on Film Row. You're also known for the recently completed projects in the Plaza District with Roxy's Ice Cream and Oak&Or and all that. To my left, we have Allison Bailey.
Hi, Steve.
Allison, you've just done some amazing things with small retail and pop-up retail throughout the urban core, and I know you're involved in doing some projects elsewhere. And I really look forward to what you can bring to the discussion in terms of what opportunities are ahead in redefining what retail is and how it can work in placemaking. Nathaniel, you've been very involved in Bricktown. You've got your offices there. You've restored some old buildings there quite wonderfully. But I really wanted to hit up your expertise on transit. You've been overseeing the MAPS 3 committee on streetcars. So we're going to start with a quick update on some projects you're each involved with, and then we'll get to the greater discussion. David, first of all, talk to us about how the project in the Plaza District is doing and what you have coming next.
Sure. The Plaza District project is the building that houses Oak&Or and Roxy's Ice Cream. They have been thriving since they opened at the end of last year and spring of this year. Lines out the door consistently at Roxy's Ice Cream. That was a bit of a joint venture between Allison and myself, approaching Roxy's to see if they were ready to go brick and mortar. They were a very popular food truck, continue that food truck operation, and now they have their headquarters at the Plaza District, and then Oak&Or is one of the best craft beer bars in town.
And what's next for you? It's live, folks. Sorry about that.
I thought
Edit
it would be me.
Edit that. Go ahead.
So,
what's next?
you know, we're getting ready to finally break ground on the arcade building, wrapping up appraisal and final financing. Hope to start construction on that in the middle of July, which we're very excited to bring that project back to life. And of course, the Tower Theater is one that everybody always asks me about, and that is going. We started construction this last week. Put up barricades along 23rd, so that's our fault that it's been cut down to one lane lately. Sorry about that. But all in the name of good forward progress. It's pretty cool. But the entire theater space is full of scaffold right now from floor to ceiling. It's actually really beautiful just by itself as we redo that plaster ceiling in there and start to bring that back to life.
And it sounds like we're ready pretty soon to do an update, and that'll be a fun project to look at as it's underway.
We are, yes.
Allison, you started something new this summer, Industry Flea. Tell us about it. How's it going?
Well, it was kind of a risk because Oklahoma weather can be a little unforgiving on outdoor events, but we thought that it was worth the risk because we wanted to bring an open-air market to the city, and we really wanted to do it in conjunction with an existing event that had a lot of food and a lot of other things. And so we partnered with H&H on Friday night every month this season, and then we're also open all day on Saturday at the corner of 10th and Hudson in Midtown. And it's been a really great success for us, and it's only thanks to the vendors that come and set up and do a wonderful job. They literally build a 10 by 10 space from nothing and then sell all evening long on Friday and all day Saturday. And it's a really fun event for us to put together and for people to shop in, I think. So we've been really happy with it.
You're asking a lot from vendors who for an unproven product. Talk about the mix you've had, and I know you've had some petting animal displays. Talk about the mix that you have next to Blue Garden.
We have a vendor that raises alpacas at an alpaca farm, and they sell alpaca products, and they also have like a little mercantile that's there with their alpaca products, and it's been super popular with the kids because they bring them down and they're in the space with their products that they're selling also. But that kind of shows a variety of vendors. We have made in Oklahoma products like pickles and jams, but then we have brick and mortar retailers that are selling women's clothing out there. We have paper products being sold. We have little rocks and things that the kids really like and small items. And then we have some more expensive items like furniture that has been handmade. And we had cornhole sets last month from one of our really popular vendors that sold out in an hour of the event opening. So it's been that kind of is why we wanted to do the event, is to have that variety. The pop-ups don't really allow us to do that as much, and so it's been really fun.
So it's at Northwest 10th and
Hudson.
And when is the next industry flea?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. So we got good timing
Yes.
here, don't we?
Yes.
And again, you're next to Blue Garden, which
We
is
are.
the food truck court, and you're also down the street from Dust Bowl Lanes and
Fassler Hall,
Fassler Hall and
RJ's.
RJ's. Yeah, it's quite an area now, isn't it?
Well, I feel like it's kind of become our neighborhood for doing events like that. We feel at home there after so many months of holiday pop-ups.
Now, Nathan, when it's hot outside like this, I'm not sure if I want to walk all the way from Sheridan and Robinson all the way to 10th and Hudson. What can you do to make that a little bit better?
Well, we'll build you a streetcar just for you.
Sounds good. Good deal. So you guys had a meeting today, and I understand there's some progress being made on the streetcar. Talk about that.
Yeah, there is. So here in this month and last month, we've received some updates on the engineering design. So the route has been improved, and it's been improved for about 1.5 years now, but there's been a lot of follow-on design work to validate that. And so far, everything is kind of lining up. I don't want to jinx it, but everything is lining up. No big surprises as they dig into the more detailed blueprints and finding out what's beneath the surface where we intend to lay the track.
And not to jinx you, but you broke the rules. This project's not over budget.
That's right. So, yeah. And so far, we recently had the proposals come forward for the vehicles themselves. That was at the very end of last year. And we recommended Enacon for the manufacturer and negotiating the contract with them now to proceed with construction. At least the proposal for those were under budget. We just looked at the budget preliminary design for the maintenance facility. That's also under budget. So, like I say, it's moving along pretty well, and we look forward to the next steps.
And quickly tell everyone what the basic route will be, and when will I be able to ride that streetcar?
So early 2018 is when you'll be able to ride it, and so expect construction to begin next year and up until the time that we have the first ride. And so, broadly speaking, it'll actually connect Midtown, so it's good that we're talking about this as well. Connect Midtown, Auto Alley, it'll go right through where we are right now in Bricktown. And so you'll really be able to touch, you can go from East Bricktown to the Civic Center and not walk more than about a block total. And you can reach a lot of parts of downtown. So, it'll touch Broadway going north and over on 11th, coming back down to Robinson, Sheridan and Reno through Bricktown, and then, like I say, Robinson and Hudson on either side of the Devon Tower.
All right, and fair to say there is ambition for this to be continued in future years.
Yes, so I think this is just the beginning. This is a big investment, not just for the streetcar itself, but for transit in general. So it'll be the cornerstone of a greater system that incorporates other technologies, but it'll also allow us to have an initial piece that'll connect more streetcar to reach more parts of the greater downtown area.
All right. Behind me here, I picked out 4 areas, and we have plenty of areas around town, but I tried to go to all 4 corners to some extent. There's even another one I was thinking about as well, but I was told we could only have 4 on display, so rules are rules. But again, we've really seen some wonderful examples. Midtown, I remember when it was a bunch of boarded up buildings and flop houses. The Plaza Court building was dark and empty for years, where Cafe do Brasil was a boarded up funeral home. Now it's some of the best Brazilian food you can find in town. It's really wonderful. It's got a great patio upstairs and just all these great attractions in Midtown. Plaza District is just amazing, and yet it was a really seedy area throughout most of the 90s before a lot of people got together. Councilwoman Meg Salyer's predecessor, Ann Simek, took that on as a challenge to bring that area back, and Meg Salyer continued those efforts, and all the property owners and developers and merchants really started investing, and now it's one of our leading attractions, I'd say, in our urban core. So let's talk about what we're looking at here. The first area is around 30th and Penn on the top left. There's some great architecture here. You've got one single owner for a lot of it. It is all leased out. It's not bad use. You've got a bookstore, you've got a laundromat, I think you've got I think there's a bar, the 3020 bar, which is an old-fashioned neighborhood bar. And then he owns a service station on the other corner. That's a similar architecture. And then we have another building here that's a garage, but it's also close to the curb. But it's a 4-lane street with left-hand turn lanes. If you look at it, you think there's got to be some potential here, and yet what can we do that we've learned from downtown and the urban core to apply to that stretch? It gets a little bit more difficult over here at Spring Lake Drive, 36th and Kelly. You've got a collection of shopping centers that were built in the 50s. They also feature much of their original design, ample parking that is no longer used. There's very few tenants out there. I know that that's included in the redevelopment efforts being started for Northeast Side by Urban Renewal with the city and the Alliance for Economic Development. But there's a lot of questions out there as well. To the lower left-hand corner, this is a very interesting area. This is the Will Rogers Courts. It's public housing that was built, I think, in the 30s, and it looks it. It's one-story homes. They've all got the same look. They're all very institutional looking. It's got a lot of crime, a lot of poverty. You can see they've even got a old payphone booth there. I don't think the payphone exists anymore, but it's got a lot of challenges. But I look at it, and what's also interesting is it's just on the other side of Rotary Park from where Blair Humphreys is leading efforts to do Wheeler District, where the Ferris wheel is going to go up later this year, and where they're planning some startup development, including housing and retail. So there's opportunities here, but I'm not sure what we can apply. But that's a discussion we're about to start, and it's on all of you. You can chip in as well. Then finally, we have Southwest Medical Center at 45th and Western. Fine hospital. A lot of times you see a lot of development and a lot of things happen around hospitals, certainly around Mercy in Northwest Oklahoma City, around Baptist, around St. Anthony now, even in the health sciences area around OU Children's Center and OU Medical Center. But this one, we've got an old Sears and a lot of unused parking lots, and I think they got a Walmart neighborhood market. So I guess first of all, we're talking about areas that are not on the outskirts of town, yet it's a few miles away from the streetcar system is being built. Is there a way to help these areas either with streetcar or other transit? Is that being talked about yet?
Certainly there's ideas to, not with the current set of MAPS money, but with follow-on money to extend the streetcar line. I'd love to see it go through Capitol Hill. And it may not get you to these exact intersections, but the idea is that if you have intermodal transit, you can make a transfer to a bus and get to wherever you need to get to. But I think you could cover a lot of ground, and that could activate some areas that right now there's not that option.
I've got to guess that there's a lot of folks who live in some of these areas that have workforce jobs, either in the OU Health Sciences Center, now being known as the Innovation District, or folks in Capitol Hill, Will Rogers Courts, or at least opportunities for jobs for these folks if there was some kind of transit option. Is that being talked about, how to go another phase in transit to connect those folks, the workforce, with the jobs that are clustered in the urban core?
Yeah, that's certainly, that's the mandate of transit, right, is to be able to connect that. And so when I think of, you mentioned St. Anthony's, and I live near that area, and then Midtown, so you have an area that people want to live in, or at least want to play in, and a lot of people that work there. And so you have people that have all sorts of jobs in that area, and then they have things that they can do after hours. They have reasons that, of affordable options for living in the area. And right, because it's so close to downtown, it's easier to get to. There's more options for living around it, but that's not the case if you go to some other areas. And so, if you had more options, different housing options, you might be able to see more people actually want to live and work there. But if you can connect it with transit as well, it's another way to essentially get people where they need to be.
As I look at all this, my first guess would be maybe the one that's closest is either Will Rogers Courts or 30th and Penn. Is it feasible to have a streetcar go that far, or is it better to look at a BRT, bus rapid transit, or a bus to connect with it all?
It's kind of mincing words, but essentially modern streetcar. It's really more designed for kind of be a pedestrian accelerator. So you made the joke earlier about how can I walk from this block to that block. Streetcar is great for that because it comes every 10 minutes. It doesn't move incredibly fast, but you're also not going very far. You're going maybe 6 or 7 blocks. You want to be able to get there without having to get back in your car, go 4 blocks and find another parking spot.
Right.
But if you're going much further out than that, I think BRT is a much better option, and probably for things like this. And so you might be able to have a main line. The example I gave for Capitol Hill, that might make sense to have a main line that extends further south. But then you have BRT options that go much faster. They stop much less frequently, but that's how you really connect the whole system together.
David, I'm going to put the pressure on you now. Let's look at Spring Lake and Northwest 30th and Penn. What do you like? What don't you like? And if you were hired by a very wealthy person to redevelop those areas, what would you do? Money's not the problem right now. What would you do?
Oh, money's always a problem, Steve.
No, okay. It's not well known, but Harold Ham and I hang out together, and we're going to talk with you after this.
Okay.
So first, Northwest 30th and Penn.
You start on Penn, and I mean, obviously you see some great building stock there, some really beautiful brickwork and storefronts and rhythm of storefronts along that right boundary of the photo. But you also see very narrow sidewalks and what was probably additional right-of-way that was taken from the pedestrian experience years back to make that basically a 5-lane highway. I don't know what the traffic counts on there, but I doubt that they really dictate that much dedication to the vehicle. So things are being discussed right now in the inner city, like road diets, and better walkability would be great along a street like that. So often a catalyst in these areas begins with a streetscape, like the Plaza District streetscape that occurred, the Film Row streetscape that occurred. And those catalysts tell the neighbors and the folks who live there that someone cares, the city cares, in their area, makes investment in their area. And that can be a catalyst to revitalize that entire strip.
Now, our city has not been known for using bond issues to narrow streets. Usually we go for bond issues to widen streets. Is it time to start looking in reverse? And
I would think so, yes. Yeah.
So someone needs to go to Councilwoman Meg Salyer and say, okay, we want a bond issue to narrow the street.
Put our streets on a diet.
But she just said, the Councilwoman just said, put our streets in a diet.
Road diets. And
I believe that's being discussed. Is that correct?
yeah.
So this is a change for our city, isn't it?
It is. And the city, to their credit, has been great about trying to enhance streetscapes and using bond issues to enhance the streetscape. But it's time to take that one step farther with some of these road diets and really giving more weight and credence to the pedestrian experience instead of just the vehicle experience.
All right. Now, Harold and I are very interested in Northeast 36th and Kelly. Again, we got a lot of money.
Lifestyle center.
Okay.
No, I mean that area is a fairly populated area in Oklahoma City. There are, and you're right, those are desolate shopping centers now, and there are true needs for services, grocery stores and retail and beauty salons and cleaners. There's a whole wide of neighborhood services that are needed in that type of densely populated area in the urban core. So it would be great if maybe some of the shopping centers could be redeveloped. I can't tell what the architecture and stock is like there. In that photo, you do see a lot of surface parking, of course.
Yeah.
It's set far back
And
from the
that's what I
street.
wanted to show
So
you.
yeah, so ideally, if you're going in there and redeveloping that area and making, again, a nice pedestrian experience, pulling those shops closer to the street, much like the 1930s architecture that is along Pennsylvania Avenue there, that is along the street, going in and redeveloping a nice mixed use of some housing and some retail opportunities and commercial opportunities, that are focused on the street, closer to the street, and eliminate that sea of parking.
I assume a similar approach might be helpful by Southwest Medical Center.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's a very similar condition. If you look at the sea of parking, and again, you have a good population center, a good job center down there with the hospital. One of the best Thai restaurants in town also is right by there. Just a little
Good
plug.
to know.
It is Thai Kitchen, Thai Garden. But yeah, you can see again the extra wide lanes, encouraging vehicles just to speed through that area as fast as possible. Nothing to drive by, nothing to shop at really. There's the old Sears, which is set back, and yeah, it could help from the same type of treatment.
Okay, Will Rogers Courts is probably the toughest one. And I'm really putting you on the spot here, and I understand if it's harder to arrive at a conclusion, but what do you see there? It's so institutional.
Well, I'm not terribly familiar. I know the area you're speaking
It's
of.
a lot of crime, a lot of
Yeah.
homes that are cylinder block with a brick surface, and they look like 30s assembly line homes. I mean, it's not very pleasing to the eye, but there's a lot of homes next to each other.
That is tough. I mean, certainly good design can lead to a more enjoyable living experience for anyone. Everybody deserves that. And again, I'm not terribly familiar with the streets and how they look and how they run, except for that photo. But providing good quality, affordable housing mixed in with market rate housing is critical for a successful neighborhood. It should just all be affordable housing clustered together. It should be a nice mixed economy of folks living in a neighborhood like that, and not just cluster all that in one place.
Allison, you've been very connected, just keeping abreast with the Wheeler development that Blair Humphreys is doing at the old downtown air park. Is there opportunity for that to benefit what is already present nearby in Will Rogers Courts?
Yeah, and I mean, kind of going back to this, it's like, yeah, we can talk about the buildings, but there are people living in those buildings. I mean, they deserve a place to have community with each other, and maybe Wheeler can be that to them. And there are new amenities that are going to be literally next door to them that haven't been there for years, that are going to be walking distance to their home. And so I think there's a really good opportunity to have things that kids love, things that seniors love, and I think that the Wheeler District's probably going to bring that to them over the next decade. So it's how that neighborhood embraces that and gets excited about it. I hope they see some of those parks and things as a big asset.
We've seen some efforts of late by various civic and community groups in the city to help improve neighborhoods, to paint maybe the older neighbor's home, to add some clean up streets and maybe do some planting of trees. And I wonder if there's a similar effort that couldn't take place out in Will Rogers Courts. I mean, would there be a way to, you do these pop-up shops, is there a pop-up approach to improving
There's a pop-up
housing
approach
like that?
to everything, Steve, don't you know that? But I think, talking about things like parklets and talking about these small spaces that people feel ownership of and feel, community gardens are a really great example of how maybe we can't fix everything, but you can create a really great place that someone feels like they belong and that it's theirs and it's a part of their community. And so I would hope to see stuff like that, these small, manageable spaces that the neighbors really want. That's the most important thing, is that it's something that they want in their neighborhood and that they have input in. And so, there's always opportunity for something pop-up.
Of these three commercial corridors, which one would excite you the most to try to take
30th
on?
and Penn for sure.
You're familiar with it?
Yeah. I went to Oklahoma City University, so we were pretty close and frequented driving up and down Pennsylvania to go different destinations. Unfortunately, the Plaza District wasn't where it is right now. When I was in college, that would have been really fun. But I've always appreciated this building. It's funny that you put it up there because I kind of sometimes will go down Penn just to kind of drive by it because I think it's really pretty.
I love it.
Yeah, and I'm with David, and I would take it kind of even a step further. Is how can that infrastructure along Penn also extend into the neighborhood to connect people? Because there isn't a lot of parking in any of these places, and you wouldn't want to take away from those by continuing to add more parking there. So how can those neighbors actually be the customers for these businesses? And they are right now with the existing businesses, but any future businesses that would come in too.
It's impressive, the owner, and I've talked to him a little bit, Fred Palaki, I think is his name. I mean, it was his father and grandfather that did all this way back when. They've kept it in the family.
It's pretty fun.
And I've talked to him, and he's like, look, it's the street, it's the city. I can't really do any more with it until something improves in this area. But, you know, he points out he's got some good, stable tenants. You know, it's not a bad mix. It's what the neighborhood wants, and there's nothing really bad going on here. He's kept the buildings up.
I think
That's
everything
the
is
kind of thing you want, isn't it?
everything is a collaboration. I think it's easy to just say, well, I can't do this because someone else needs to do something, but it's about having an idea and getting excited about a project and seeing how different parties can work together. I know, you know, there's some other really big tenants that are really close to this intersection that move a lot of people through there, so you know that the traffic counts are good enough for retail along that street. And so you know, there's always opportunity. I think it's about having a positive direction with your your efforts, maybe. But
what I'm going to do next is I want to see if anyone in your group wants to ask a question or make a comment. What I'm going to have you do is say your name and say the comment or question, and then I'll repeat it so everyone on News OK can hear it. Is there anyone out there that's got a comment or a question? Oh, you're all cowards. All right. Well, again, thank you all for joining me, and everyone out there that's been watching, trying to figure out what in the world we're doing. I hope we can do more of this.
hey, Mary Gardens.
That's right, we're on the big screen, and they're probably trying to figure this out too. This started with Urban Land Institute approaching me to give them a tour. And little did they know that I would blackmail them into doing this in exchange.
Thank you.
But we really want to create these conversations. We want to use this space. We want to get these discussions going. And I hope that this discussion continues. So again, thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you and have a great weekend.